Welcome to the second session in our weekly series on mobility. Asia moves forward in the fourth industrial revolution. I'm Richard Dasher. I direct the U.S. Asia Technology Management Center at Stanford. We're very happy to produce this seminar series. And today we want to say special thanks to the Center for South Asian Studies at Stanford, which has, turned out some of its members and affiliates to come to this program today. So we want to welcome you. For those of you who are Stanford students and shopping courses, this is available as a one-unit seminar, pass no credit. Make sure you get a copy of the syllabus to know what the course requirement is. And for those of you who are registered students, you have 2 weeks from today to write your comment about today's session. And last week's sessions will be due 1 week from today. The videos and prior slides from last week's session, as we'll try to do every week, are available at our website, asia.stanford.edu. So please check out the video from last week, and also slides are up from last week. This time, because we're having a pretty good sized audience, we'd like to ask everyone to ask any questions or comments that you have, to put them in the chat window. And after our speaker finishes with prepared comments, and maybe I get to ask a question or two, I'll start to read out the questions to our speaker. Then if anybody can stay with us after the end of the scheduled program, we'll be happy to have a more informal, off the record, not recorded conversation where you can speak directly. So welcome today. I'm very happy that Mr. Deepak Garg, the founder and CEO of Rivigo, is able to join us today from Delhi, India. Deepak founded Rivigo in 2014, and it has grown into a unicorn company. It is one of working in the logistics industry. And before developing Rivigo, Deepak was working with McKinsey in India. He has been selected as one of Forbes India's 40 under 40, excellent, leading young leaders. And so we're really delighted that you can find the time to be with us today. Why don't I just turn the floor over to Mr. Deepak Garg. Deepak, floor is yours. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for everyone for having me here. Good morning and good evening to all of you, wherever you're based. Just a little bit about me before I start talking about Rivigo. As Richard already said, I spent years at McKinsey. Before that,
I will be going. I have lots of people come. Bye-bye.
And, my passion has been solving technology and supply chain problems. Even at McKinsey, I worked in several global geographies looking at this problem quite deeply. Started this company in 2014, and it's been 7 years running now. I wanted to take you guys through a small presentation which talks about the problem statement and what we are trying to do and where we have reached, and also speak about our aspiration and vision going forward. So Rivigo, just to introduce, is in the goods mobility business, which is we help our customers and companies move goods from point A to point B. Those goods could move in a full truckload, or they could move in a door-to-door fashion, where we'll pick up goods, do the first mile, and also deliver it in the last mile. Our purpose is to make logistics human. I'm going to talk about why we chose this person and why this is our vision in a bit. Just for everyone to be familiar with the size of the market, Indian goods mobility or logistics market is a very large market and growing quite rapidly. It is 14% of the GDP and is expected to be upwards of $500 billion in a couple of years. And logistics linked digital commerce services, which is, the fuel sales or financing or insurance premium or, credit or toll payments, is again a massive, size of the industry. Why is this also relevant in addition to logistics as a market is because platforms like us are actually impacting how commerce services also happen through technology and not just freight. So the addressable market size for a company like us in India is north of $1 trillion, and it's only growing. What are the current challenges or problems which the sector is facing? And I've put down three, major constituents here on the chart, as you see. They are these truck drivers, 10, 15 million of them. They have a unique problem in India, but this problem is also, relevant in many parts of the world, where, truck drivers don't have any social respect. They spend months away from home. They don't have a family life. They are addicted to alcohol and, drugs and so on and so forth. They have serious health and lifestyle challenges. 40% of them have HIV in India, and there's a chronic truck driver shortage. India has not been talking about this problem for the last 1 or 2 years during the pandemic, but before pandemic, everyone used to talk about this problem. And it's strange for a country like India, which is such a large population and such a reasonably high unemployment, to talk about truck driver shortage. But it comes from the fact that no one wants to be a truck driver. It's a very socially stigmatic job. It's a socially disrespected job. Strangely in India, truck drivers is called a 37th caste. India is historically a caste-based society, and even up until now in villages, you will hear the statement that it's a 37th caste, because once you're a truck driver, you are so disrespected that you're at the bottom of the caste structure. Okay, and truck driver is not a caste, of course, but it's a profession. But it's been called as a caste because it's to disrespect the trade, right? That's how bad it is, right? And very interesting insight on why it is so, and it came from the travels I did in 2014. Meeting a lot of truck driver families and transporters and being on the road across the country, I realized that truck drivers, because they spend months away from home, they sleep around with commercial sex workers, they are addicted to bad lifestyle, they have HIV. No one wants to marry them, right? And marriage is a sign of social respect in villages in India, right? I mean, if you're married and you have kids and your family, you're socially respected in India. But if you're not married, you're always out. You don't get that social connection and social respect. And therefore, no one wants their kids to be truck drivers, right? I mean, although the job pays well, now that's a big problem. And we realize that if India were to become a large economy, we will have trucks and we will have these drivers, and even in the autonomous vehicle scenario, we will have a bunch of these. We'll have the safety drivers and safety guardians and all of that, right, in the truck. So this problem will persist for the next few decades. And how do we solve this problem, right? And this is also a global problem in a way that truck driver shortage, as you all know, is a big problem in the US and Canada, and UK recently, last week said they're giving PRs or open visas to truck drivers from other countries, right? Because that's a big problem they are facing, right? So it's everywhere. This problem persists, right? What is the problem customers are facing? Customers on the other side, India has large 20,000 enterprises, a lot of SMEs, right? They don't have visibility of consignments. They have drudgery of manual follow-up, unreliable, unprofessional service, very long lead times. India is a large country, but we still, in terms of distance, but the lead times are huge, right? And it leads to people carrying a lot of inventory and putting in extra warehouses and the cost going up, right? When I said logistics market is large, in India, it's actually bad for India, right? It's an inefficiency. 14% of GDP we are wasting in logistics. It should ideally be 6, 7, 8%, like it's in the developed world, or even if technology infused. So there's no price transparency. So customers are actually also pained. Truck drivers are pained, and customers are pained as well. If you talk to fleet suppliers, your fleet owners, your fleet operators, there are probably 1.5 million of them. There's the everyday hassle of finding demand, impacting peace of mind. There's low vehicle utilization, long and expensive working capital cycles, high level of intermediation leading to poor economics, which means there are multiple levels of brokers which are there between fleet operators and customers, leading to distrust and poor economics. And there's no price benchmark. Fleet operator is the guy who's doing all the hard work, but brokers are the guys who make all the money, right? And therefore, this guy is always at the marginal end of economics, right? And he's barely surviving. And you'd see during pandemic, so many fleet owners went upside down, right? And shut shop, right? It's unreal, what has happened in India. It was also necessary for a bit because of the fact that the market is oversupplied for many years, and India had, during COVID, the economy took a hit, and and unless that balance was restored, we would have been a persistent kind of a problem of marginal economics, right? So the problem is real. The problem is huge, and we're talking about one of the largest sectors of economy, right? And this is where, let me also talk about, before coming into what we ideally didn't solve for, the fact that, government recognizes this problem and public policy recognizes this problem. And there's a lot of, good work happening on the reform side. There's been GST, the logistics is given an infrastructure status now. There's a new kind of a department, logistics division in the ministry, which was never there. There's also a thought of making into a separate ministry itself. There's a lot of digitization push through electronic waybills and FASTags and electronic toll collection and digitization in terms of documentation. There's also very, very high pace of infrastructure building that's going on, right? And there's a mega Bharatmala project with super expressways that is coming up, which is going to reduce transit time from places like Delhi to Mumbai from currently 3 to 4 days to less than 20 hours on trucks. And it's already getting built and going to get launched, inaugurated next year. And it's not just Delhi, Mumbai, it's probably every major highway is getting upgraded like that, right? So there's a lot of investments happening on the infra side, which is supporting all the economic growth, but also the problem which the sector is facing, So how did we try to solve this problem, right? This whole truck driver issue leading to poor customer satisfaction and poor unit economics of the fleet owners, right? We said, if truck drivers are not able to come back home, can we actually do something to bring them home every day, like a typical day job? And this idea led to a concept called relay trucking. Relay trucking is a unique concept. We haven't seen it work globally at scale. We have attempted to do this in India and scale it up in India at scale. So it's a globally unique idea. So the way relay trucking works is, if you see the visual chart, it explains how the truck drivers change over at pit stops on the route from Delhi to Mumbai in a way that every truck driver comes back home every day, whereas the trucks keep running all the time. Right. So a truck goes from Delhi to Jaipur. The driver hands over a truck from driver 2, D2, whereas the vehicle is the same, right? And this guy D1 who gets off at Jaipur, he hops onto another truck which is coming back in the direction of Delhi and drives it back to Delhi, right? And this loops continue all across. So whereas trucks keep running all the time, there is no downtime because of driver not being available because he wants to sleep or he's tired or whatever, right? So truck is running all the time. Drivers are coming back home every day, and all the downtime that was there in truck operation is actually taken out. So if the truck was operating only 12 hours, 10 hours a day, it's now operating 22 hours a day. So this idea just not solves for the life of the truck drivers, but actually improves the truck utilization by double, and also reduces the transit time by half. So if Delhi to Mumbai was earlier 3 days, it already brings it out to 1 day, right? 1.5 days. And it's very safe because truck driver in Delhi is only operating in his closed loop from Delhi to Jaipur and back, so he knows every kind of pothole on the road and every turn on the road, and his experience driving this loop all the time. He's sleeping on his own bed with his family, and he's doing this. So same with the guy in Jaipur, same with the guy in Bhilwara, Kherwara. These are all stations or cities or pit stops across the highway. So what when we piloted this way back in 2014-15, we realized huge benefit in terms of the transit time, and the market was shocked to see that we could deliver from Delhi to Mumbai the next day itself, right? And a lot of our early growth came from working with Amazon and Flipkart. At one point in time, we were the 100% transport partners for Amazon in India, right? They were shipping all their goods from air cargo, and we came up with this tagline called air shipment on road through a relay model, and we got good pricing and we made a ton of money, and it helped us. That early success helped us build this model into a pan-India model and build all our infrastructure of pit stops and hire all these pilots and build all the technology and reliability. We also raised private equity money, but I think our early success came from the fact that we had very strong, large sponsor customers, anchor customers, who were growing very fast, and we helped them grow very fast, right? We were strategic partners for them because we were moving like almost 80, 90, 100% of the shipments, right? So this is what the basic concept of Rivigo is. It's a very simple idea. It addresses a social and a human problem. And in turn, it actually solves for the unit economics of the trucks, makes it better, and solves for the pain points of customers, gives them safer, reliable, and faster deliveries, right? And to me, I thought in 2014, if you're able to build this, not only will solve a large socio-economic problem, and if you're sitting at a platform, at the center of the platform which is building this, will create a large economic value as well, right? With that idea, we started building this out, and we've been doing this last 6-7 years, consistently just focusing on this one single idea and building everything we are doing on top of what can make this idea successful. I believe this is a global idea, and this can be applied in every other geography. So so while we started with that in 2014, what has Rivigo become? To become, right? I think is a chart here. Rivigo is creating an ecosystem of logistics and related commerce services to support the growth of the new economy, right? Which is, so we have the service lines. We are in full truckload service line, which is built on the idea of relay transportation. We have express cargo, which is a door-to-door service line, which is built on the concept of relay transportation. We have cold chain. We have freight brokerage. We have 3PL warehousing, which is a very small part of what we do, but again, I'm big plans going forward here. We help our fleet owner partners to procure fuel, digital toll payments, insurance, fleet financing. We are able to get small fleet guys cheaper financing through our partners. We are able to provide truck services and spares. Along this journey of building out this platform, we ended up buying a lot of trucks because we were experimenting and we were getting a lot of data. We want to put IoT devices on the trucks to see how can the handovers happen effectively, how can the pilferages be stopped, and you want to automate every aspect of trucking itself, right from dispatch to maintenance to tire management to so we kept going deeper into each of these problems while solving for our own trucks. At one point in time, we were the largest truck owners in India, fleet owners in India, right? We owned about 3,000 large trucks, and we were the largest fleet owners in India, right? We are not anymore now, because we have actually given those trucks out to our fleet partners and pilot owners themselves, and we are a tech platform. But we did that in our early years to actually experiment a lot, ideate a lot, iterate a lot, to build a lot of the technology. And the market was actually very, very surprised during those times that we were buying trucks to experiment. No one does that, right? No one buys so many trucks to kind of experiment. And so we were very bold, and we were very fearless while we were building this, right? We decided, okay, we know where we are going, so we are fine. We understand the market is thinking we are crazy, but we are very clear that we want to first prove. And this is such a new idea that we had to prove it for our truck driver partners. We had to prove it for our fleet owners. We had to prove it for the customers, right? For someone like Amazon to trust us, or Unilever to trust us, or FMCG companies to trust us. They'd never seen this before, and we are a new start and right. For them to trust it, we had to show that we trust our ideas. So we are building a lot of this infrastructure and experimenting a lot. So one of the results of that experiment was we ended up building something called as tire as a service, which is you don't need to buy tire as a product anymore. You can buy it as a service. And we built this jointly with the leading tire OEMs in India, tire companies in India, where tire can be procured on a per mile basis, right? And when we were also pained by the fact that truck has to stop because of the fact that because of a tire related breakdown. So we started experimenting with a lot of IoT devices on the tire, and had this vision that tire is not going to be black anymore, but it's going to be data, right? And tire is just data. Tire is data. So I did a lot of sessions with OEMs. Earlier, their boards and the companies did not understand what I'm talking about, but over time they started to figure out that tire is going to be data. It's not going to be rubber, and that's where we are, I think, going forward with that, right? And the good thing is now all these fleet owner partners for us, they don't want to buy tires. We've basically single-handedly created this market, and this is becoming a big service for us itself, right? Where we are the intermediary as a platform, which helps the OEM sell this service to the fleet owners, OEM cannot sell this service directly to a small fleet guy because OEM is afraid the fleet guy will run away with these tires, expensive tires. They can only go through a trusted platform like Rivigo to sell these tires to that, right? We are powering truck sales. We have a sizable auto resale now, truck resale kind of a function which is scaling up. Yes, we provide pilots to these fleet owners, which are relay pilots. So that's also service. So basically, we help a fleet owner with all the 7-8 services he needs through his life cycle. We help pilots come back home, and we get customers get better service. I think that's where relay is now this thing. And so it's not just relay, but a lot of technology built on top of relay to solve the three problems I think articulated here, right? If fleet owners are no longer, there's an interesting chart somewhere. This is a vision we have for each of these guys, right? 3 guys. From the 37th caste, which is basically a socially disrespected and stigmatic job, to nation's new army. Sometimes army personnel get offended when I talk about this. Once I had a meeting with the prime minister, I said, the next war is going to be fought on the front of economy, and not like political wars. And these are the guys who move every day during pandemic and all of that, moving our economy, right? I mean, we should respect them as the warriors of the new economy, not this thing. So I think that's what and while we started calling these guys not drivers but pilots, we started to we wrote a book on them, from not the 37th caste. The book's title is called Not the 37th Caste. We sent it to everyone in the government. We sent it to 10,000 companies, and everyone loved reading the stories and how the stories are changing, right? And it's a long-term social cause, right? It's going to take a few decades for this whole cycle to reverse that. But I already see, in villages, people tell me that, that they are seeing this flower bloom, right? People are talking about becoming a truck pilot. They like the whole, app-based working technology, right? The kids in the school, they are not saying that their father is going on a truck driving job. He or she is saying he's going on a duty because it's now a duty. And there's a big difference, in saying that he's a truck driver or is going on a duty, right? And it's a little bit of cultural thing, but I'm just sharing it here that that kid feels really proud. Earlier, he or she would feel very embarrassed sharing that his or her father is a truck driver, and she won't want to share it. Today, she shares that her father gets a duty on the mobile app, and is back home every day. So so it's changing the socio-economic environment in a big way, right? Their mothers and their wives don't want them to ever leave Rivigo platform because they find it safer and they're coming back home and all of that. So there's a lot of that stuff happening, and we're very proud of that. Fleet owners, from survival to abundance, right? From a lot of drudgery of manual work, from so many calls in a day, the trust in pricing, hassle-free operations, providing all the services in terms of financing and tire and everything else. And basically, we are now able to commit a certain utilization of trucks to them, right? We almost commit a 10,000 kilometers a month that you don't have to worry, we'll help you run 10,000 kilometers minimum. An average fleet owner in India runs 6,000 to 7,000 kilometers. So we are already guaranteeing 30-40% higher fleet utilization to fleet owners, right? And customers, from reliable operation to celebrating growth. I think what pandemic has taught everyone is also the fact that logistics and supply chain is a critical driver of the business. It's not a cost function. And we're building a lot of technologies for customers as well, right? From electronic PODs to visibility to a lot of planning, real-time dashboards, e-invoicing, which whatever helps them focus on their business and not drudgery or follow-up of, transportation and logistics is what we are basically trying to do. I'm going to talk through some other slides as well. So I think so I've said truck driver shortage is a global problem, and I think it's recognized globally as a problem. So a lot of media articles have come from that in different parts of the world. This is the flywheel we talk about. We basically started with this whole mission of making logistics human for pilots and fleet suppliers and customers. So more and more of these guys are coming onto the platform. We're getting a lot of data through that, data of consignments on fuel mileages, on tire temperatures and engine parameters and tire parameters, of vehicle continuum, and a lot of material movement data. This data is leading to a lot more intelligence, leading to less and less tire breakdowns, more and more fuel mileages, so better machine learning and better price prediction. We run a platform called nationalfreightindex.com, which actually is India's freight prices. We basically we put it out there, and we're able to predict those pricing for every truck type and all of that, right? So it's all coming through this engine, and it's leading to disruptive product, right? Which is a fuel efficiency optimizer, or relay allocation, or network planning and optimization, or the pilot app, on which the pilot lives, right? Or the fleet supplier dashboards. And we've tried to make things very simple and easy for them. Our segments, they're not educated, they're not very well connected, they live in the villages, so their applications are very simple. So they are WhatsApp bots and chat bots and all of that, enabling that. So I think, and that's leading to more and more guys coming on the platform, so making logistics human for them and leading to more data. So I think that's what we are trying to do here. We are at a very early phase of our flywheel kicking in. I can't even say it's fully kicked in yet, but I think over the next years and few years and decades, I think we hope to get everyone on the platform. So there's a lot of data we get, and from the trucks and from the operations we run. I've spoken about it, but we are as a company, we're very data hungry, right? We basically, we like to get every data we can get our hands on, right? And we believe data is very, very powerful. Like for example, we've seen, pilots with more daughters than sons are more reliable, and pilots with, and this is through data, right? I'm not being biased here. And married pilots are more reliable than bachelors, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, just fleet operators who call their wife every day are more reliable, are more trustworthy, and this is the date. This is the data which is showing. Fleet operators on a particular telecom network are more reliable than on a particular telecom network, right? It's strange. I mean, how these things correlate, right? And that's what data does for us, right? Because probably, and we try to hypothesize on why this is happening. Probably these fleet operators were sincere and proactive about their business, so they shifted to a better telecom network in that geography faster. The other guys were less less proactive, and they were less agile and all that, and they stuck around with their earlier telecom networks, and probably that also shows in their work, right? So I think I just want to give some of these examples to just make the case that data is not usually you break away from your earlier mindset of hypothesis led data generation. Data in itself is very powerful, and you won't even know, right? For example, which tire there's a this thing in India that front tires should be radial tires and back tires should be nylon and whatever, right? I mean, I ask this question sometimes to just these people. Why would you not have the right tire on the front as radial and the left tire as nylon? How do you do this? I mean, where have you experimented with all of this? And but once you start getting data, you're able to actually do this a lot more and better and all of that. You've seen a tire cost go down from 2 rupees a kilometer to 3 rupees a kilometer now, right? Because we've helped these OEMs design better tires and through data and all that. So, so we are very big on data, and we are very big on algorithms which work on this data to help plan better. And there are these products, applications and apps and products which work. I've spoken about, what's a value proposition for customers. We are end-to-end service nationwide, reduction in total logistics cost, reduced need to rely on air and rail shipments, which are expensive, faster availability of products in the market, unprecedented transit time, lowest industry damage and pilferage, fully digitized, experience. And we have like India's all major, brands as customers, and Maruti is India's largest passenger vehicle company. Fleetguard is a auto supplier. Ford, you all know, Marico is one of the leading FMCG companies. All of this, I always touch upon the cultural aspects of how we have built this company, and so it's like any other kind of young startup. It's and we did not, when we started, we did not have access to resources or access to any IP. It's all culture, right? And culture is the biggest determinant of success, we believe. So we can only underinvest in building a great culture. We try to hire exceptional people. We're purposeful in everything we do, and it all comes back to how we are using technology to make life human, right? For our people and for our fleet partners, and So, and we also have this, very well-defined leadership principles, and we try to measure everything on that, right? Even our partners and people who we onboard and people reviews. I think that's what we try to do. Yeah, we've basically try to build a strong foundation through. We are now about 3,000 plus team, pan India. We run a few million square feet of warehousing. We have these major pit stops. Like I said, we used to own a lot of trucks. Now we don't. So there's a lot of good stuff going on, and there's a size of our operation pretty much everywhere. We are in every pin code of the country, pretty much, and we are expanding the network, going further deeper into the trenches of India, right? Because India is also growing quite heavily in the rural areas and agri areas. I think so. That's a big trend we are seeing. So there's a lot of demand coming from those areas. These 9 things I talk about as what builds our moat or competitive advantage. We are pilot first. We are, I often say this is a moat because it's a mindset, and this is a mindset it took us, several of these first years to cultivate. You won't see a company or fleet operator or someone in transportation as being as pilot first as we are, right? We believe that we exist because of them. They are the ones major drivers of the economy and a platform and everything else, right? So we do a lot of work with them. We have a vision for their future, which is living a healthy life, sustainable life, longer life, happy life, socially respected life, with good homes and good personal appliances and with kids going into good schools and all of that. So we are working on that vision. It extends beyond just giving them a duty on the application and paying them for it. Actually, we're doing a lot of work on the engagement side of them, right? We are their voice in public policy. We are their voice with our customers. Second is game-changing industry partner. We were lucky that we started with a lot of partnerships, and we are in B2B. So you can imagine that to gain entry into some of these big places required a lot of effort. But we are happy that whether it's to do with see, now Rivigo is large. We can still walk into any door and we can open any partnership. But I think last 6-7 years, our secret sauce has been that some of the early angel investors, rankers, or even the partners were people who were big brands in the sector, in the economy, and they supported us when they said they believe in relay model and in the vision of Rivigo, and this is the only answer to the trucking problems in India. It gives us a lot of confidence, but it actually opened a lot of doors for us. Our first partner was India's second largest truck OEM, which is Ashok Leyland. I didn't have to bother about anything in terms of maintenance, and we didn't know anything how to operate trucks, right? So the CEO was such a big fan of what we are trying to do. So he basically rallied a lot of his organization bandwidth to making us successful. In turn, we ended up buying a lot of trucks from them. So it was a mutually beneficial relationship, for us. And it's a South-based company. They want to expand north. As an upstart, we buying their trucks and we putting our weight behind them also help them grow in north, because all these upcoming transporters and fleet operators thought of that brand as a good brand to buy trucks from. And now we have probably a lot of these other tire partners and financing partners and so on and so forth, right? But I think this has been a secret sauce. Deep-rooted engineering and tech culture. We were the first company in India to realize that we got to go to these big colleges and campuses on day zero, right? I mean, it's a very competitive affair. Typically, day zero guys go to the US. They get big dollar checks and they don't stay back in India. And we had to put a lot of fight out there on the campuses to establish ourselves as a talent brand to work for these companies. And we are very proud of what we did with them, right? I mean, we'd had university toppers join us. We had so that started building a deep-rooted engineering and tech culture in Rivigo. Spoken about these things. Fifth point is important, right? We are big believers of trainings and people development, and we call this as mastery, right? We run very sincere mastery programs for our pilots or for our warehouse staff, for our sales force, and we hire. Typically, we did not hire for a lot of time from logistics. So we always hired people from outside because we wanted a certain mindset. And then we put them through this 7-day, 2-week, 4-6-week mastery programs. And it's a big secret sauce and a source of strength for us. We have also been able to reduce our cost of hiring through this. Like we hire freshers and we hire them young, and then we get them ready in 4 to 8 weeks to be productive in the job. Organization culture, customer trust. Network is a big one for us. How do we roster pilots? What trucks to run from where? I think it's again a secret sauce, and how that algorithm works. I think we will continue to be the cheapest operator in the country, right? We'll continue to reduce cost. And that's through the network design, and multiple services on top of the platform helps us be more have a denser network, and the denser the network, the better our outcomes are, right? Overall, right? we're structurally re-engineering industry's cost structure. If your capital is getting utilized twice, right, and you're running the truck, this thing, you're reducing a lot of the cost, but also because the truck pilots are coming from the hinterlands, the villages, and there's already a 30-40% cost difference when you hire a truck driver in the village versus you hire the truck driver in the metro. For example, if you were to send a truck driver from Delhi to Mumbai and back, you'll have to pay that hardship allowance. Whereas if you're hiring him in Jaipur and he's coming back home every day, we have realized that cost of truck pilot hiring has come down, right? You'd be surprised to know that in 2014 we were paying them higher, and now we are paying them lower, whereas the market salary costs have doubled, from 14 to 21. Whereas our costs have come down because we've actually we no longer hire in the metros. We always hire in the villages, on the highways, and they like that they are coming back home every day, right? So they are open to taking a lower wage compared to a guy who's actually on the wheel all the time, right? We don't have to pay for his food or his lodging, whereas the other operators have to pay for food and the lodging, right? This guy gets his home cooked food made by his wife or his mother, and it also builds a loving bond in his family. I always tell them to bring home cooked food, because when you are eating that food, you're thinking about your family. But if you're eating at the hotel outside, you're never thinking about the family, and you're actually spoiling because there's so much kind of wrong oil or bad food in the hotels on the highways that you're actually end up hurting your health. And so you need a chance, you need a reason to think about your family when you're on the highway, right, on the road. So bringing home food actually gives you that chance and helps you be emotionally closer to your family, right? So yeah, what's our aspiration? I think I'm mindful of time as well, so probably the last slide, right? Yeah, I think we have big plans, big aspirations. I've put something down here, right? We are growing very fast. We want to be India's largest express logistics company, a relay as a service platform, a large financing platform enabler, a large insurance enabler, a large tire resale enabler, fuel and toll payments enabler. So I think that's where the platform is going. Richard, take any questions from you and the audience. Thank you.
Deepak, thank you so much. That is an absolutely wonderful presentation. It's one of those things where, you're starting out from the standpoint, making logistics human. That in itself is it was wonderfully presented, and it's a wonderful idea. I guess my first question for you is, as you spread out into becoming this kind of technology platform, and you're able to analyze things that make drivers more reliable or whatever, how do you keep the technology human? How do you keep that human focus to what you're doing?
That's a very, very interesting question, Richard. If I understand the question correctly, you're saying that,
well, a lot of times if somebody is performing work and they're being analyzed like crazy, there's a kind of, consideration about how people have to work inside Amazon warehouses, at least, here in the US. And they're under more stress because they know that the computers are, the company's getting data on every second they spend.
No, I got your question in the first instance itself, right?
Yeah.
Double-edged sword,
yeah.
right? While it makes things easier.
Well, how do you keep the human focus as you're moving forward?
We have debated this a lot within our team, right? The fact that we'll always get tempted by the fact that there is extra dollar to be made by making things even more efficient, which can start to expand into the edges of making things, worse for the people who we are actually wanting to make them make better. And look, there's no easy answer, Richard, to the fact that, when we chose our vision, we had a choice to make logistics faster or defect free or better, to saying that making logistics human and keeping purpose at the center of whatever we do, all discussions we do, is an important aspect. So it's a cultural aspect, Richard, and we never ended up choosing a vision like Amazon saying, "Hey, we'll be Earth's most customer-centric company." We said making logistics human is a vision itself, and therefore, one of the cultural tenets is we are purposeful in everything we do, which means, getting people who connect to this vision. Uh, you know, so
So actually, I'm kind of not surprised at your answer, because it is a cultural thing, and it's something that you do as part of the governance of the company in every choice that you're making.
yes,
I want to just mention that for those of you who are doing business studies, if you're familiar with the literature by Michael Porter from Harvard, who's written a lot about creating shared value, this is a classic case of really successfully creating shared value, value for the customer, value for the pilot, value for everybody concerned, as well as creating value that increases the company's value. I think this is really a textbook case of how we really need to perform in this, era when technology seems to be taking over everything, to make sure that we keep technology working for us. I'm inspired by what you said. Kind of clarification question. The pilots now are, they may be employees of the fleet operators, or they may be independent. Do you actually hire pilots as employees, or is it more of a contractor relationship for the independents?
so it's a contractor relationship, Richard. They basically get paid per mile, and per mile they run, and with certain, of course, rule sets. If we are not able to provide them a duty, we pay them nevertheless some money, right? And there are many rule sets around how they get paid, but I think it's per mile, and we also give a minimum guarantee to
Okay.
to someone who's operating with us. So, for example, if you are willing to work 26 out of the 30 days, but we're not able to provide you any work, let's say, we'll pay you a certain minimum amount, right? Even so it's our job to help you on that minimum amount. Of course, I mean, the maximum can go basis the hard work you do. We started early on with fixed compensation when we were piloting the idea, but over the years, we realized the incentives are not aligned. So it was best to get into this model of minimum guarantee, but also pay per mile with the incentive based on their performance.
Okay. So back in the first days, did you find that you were able to work with the old style truck drivers and get them to adopt the new way, or did you find that you wound up engaging in bringing in a lot of new people to start the system up?
So fair point. We could not hire. See, truck driving is a very highly skilled job, Richard.
Yeah.
You don't become a truck driver by just training, right? You become truck driver by running those miles, and we could not afford, and we started operations in heavy duty trucks, so we had to get pilots who were already experienced. But I was always worried about this whole cultural issue, because every truck driver used to pay for fuel as a very understood way of getting compensated. I mean, their fleet operators would
In other words, they would buy $30 worth of fuel, but charge the company 40 or something like that.
And it was everyone knows it. Everyone, it's
yeah.
The fleet operators know it. Everyone knows it, and we are a very and they would also, if the company is filling the fuel, they would actually either pilfer it or sell it on the roads and put kerosene instead of diesel or whatever, right? So all kinds of things are happening. So I think the cultural transformation was a big one. So the first 1,000 pilots we hired, I used to interview each and every guy, make sure they went through this cultural training. I and my senior team would run many of these trainings, okay? And they were mostly, you'd be surprised, they were similar to some of the leadership workshops management people go through, right? But it's more about mindset and all of that, mindset behavior. And we took them through them because we wanted them to forget the past and embrace the new. And we said, we'll take care of you as long as we don't get into all of this. We developed a lot of technology to protect fuel pilferage and all that. And some of these are patented stuff we've done. That's how we kind of started. And
okay, because I can imagine that in the early days, establishing the trust of these people, and not only the trust, but their willingness to try out a whole new way of doing logistics. Was it easy to show them that they made more money, more hours doing this rather than doing the long distance trips?
Yeah. So Richard, very interestingly, the big sponsors of the ideas were truck drivers, in the sense that when I went through these road trips, I was shocked by the love for the idea from truck drivers. Look, I was a McKinsey guy, always doing presentation. I had not been on the road, seen their lives and all of that, right? But when I started talking to them about this idea, I was surprised that they got so impressed with this, and they thought that this is the future. And they started telling me, they started giving me their phone numbers and all of that, saying, if whenever you start this, please call me, because this will work, okay? And I was a little surprised because not many companies at that time were understanding. Not many, people were always in doubt and all of that, right? But here was this guy who was not very educated, who was living in this village, who, he was, and that gave me a lot of confidence that this is going to work. I remember this trip back in the day. I'd done a 3,000-mile trip in India, and I'd gone to a lot of places and met a lot of people. I came back. I was sure coming back on the trip that this is a game-changing idea and this is going to work, because I'd taken all these emotions back with me, and where the drivers had said that, and I had met, management professors on this trip. I had met, some investors. I'd met drivers. I'd met transporters. I'd met customers. The biggest support I got for the idea was from truck drivers, and they said, a small incident in one village I was talking about it. This guy, took the center stage and started addressing 50 drivers who had gathered, and was talking about this idea as if, it was his idea. And I felt, there's something special about what we're trying to do here, and guys are wanting to be a part of it.
So another kind of just sort of procedural question, got a great comment to me as a direct message. How do you deal with the many different types and models of trucks that there are? I'm guessing that unlike airplanes, truck drivers must be qualified on just about anything on the road to have a license. But do you have trouble with truck drivers suddenly not knowing the type of they're supposed to come back on? Or
so we debated a lot on this problem early on, and early on we would operate with two category of trucks, and unfortunately the two category of trucks are on the other end of the spectrum, right? One of them was ICV, low and medium heavy duty vehicle, and the other one was a heavy duty vehicle, right? And one was to carry e-commerce shipments, So the other one was carrying more, industrial shipments, right? The way we made that choice, and it worked well for us, was that we got these drivers who were qualified to run heavy duty trucks, and we also made them run the lower duty trucks as well. I think that worked out fine for us. Um, could we have got cheaper workforce to run lower duty trucks? Probably yes, but it didn't work. It didn't matter to us because the utilization levels were good and we were able to mix and match. We didn't have. We want to simplify our operation, right? But as we go on and scale up, right, we're going to get into car carriers and we're going to get into a lot of the other categories as well. We might have, and the tech is ready to identify different categories of, the drivers as well. So there are 40 different type of trucks in India, right? But the driver scale categories are probably two or three, right? So it's not that big a harder problem to solve for.
Okay, thank you. So we had another question in the chat box from Bhagirath, and his question looks very simple. How do you get such granular data? But I'd like to put it into the context of the kind of developing infrastructure in India, because you're not only collecting data from IoT sensors and from other kinds of sources, but also it has to be transmitted to the cloud somehow. How do you do that? Because I would think that there's a lot of places in India, there certainly are in the US, where you run into blank spots.
So, look, India now is, you would be surprised hearing this statement, India is actually far ahead of US and many other countries on data infrastructure, right? I think Geo has done a phenomenal job, and it's cheap and it's available, it's accessible, everyone has smartphone. The data infrastructure is unbeatable, right? I mean, we're not as good as China probably right now, but we will be, I think. So yes, in 2014 when I started, there were blind spots. I don't even know when did I hear last about this problem from a tech team, right? Last 2-3 years, right? It's actually a very sorted problem. There's so much innovation happening in India. There are microservices available for everything, right? People have solved, every toll is now fast tagged. Every truck is supposed to have GPS. Every person has smartphone, which is transmitting a lot of data. So yeah, there are billion smartphones, right? So it's just everything is, cloud is cheap, and yeah, so it's not a problem anymore.
So do you see more integration, say, with the supply chain management software that some of the customers might have? I'm sure that they're getting business intelligence to predict how much is going to be needed. You could do an awful lot to help companies do fleet management.
Yeah, so Richard, that's a very good question, and we want to do this. We have had limited success doing it so far, because we realize it's very hard to work with large companies on, to integrate with the systems and all of that, right? So smaller mid-corporates do it very well. Retail customers do it very well. To move large companies, I mean, they have all the intent. They will make all the right noises and they will want to do stuff and all of that. But getting anything done there is very, very hard, right? So, yeah, so we haven't had too much success, but I believe that next decade is going to be, they don't have a choice. They also want to be part of this, right? And want to get all the data. The stated intent is they want to, put everything on cloud and, manage everything through data and all of that. So hopefully, I think over time we'll see some success there.
Okay. I want to remind everybody that if you have questions, please put them in the chat box and I'll bring them into our conversation. In the meantime, I'd like to ask, what do you think is going to happen to this whole situation as electric vehicles become more the norm? Do you think there'll be massive electrification of the trucks in India, or will India be slow?
No, I think I'm a huge believer of the fact that we'll get tremendous amount of the renewable energy by the end of this decade, and it's going to be very cheap and free and fully renewable, right? I mean, with less and less need of storage and all of that, right? So I think there's no doubt I have in my mind that by 2030, it's hard to believe that any truck will be running will be non-electric. Um, Government has already launched a program, a policy by which they want to make sure that in the next 2 years, all urban freight is on electric trucks in the next 24 months.
Yep.
All urban freight. So we have to make sure that in the next 24 months, all our first mile and last mile trucks are all electric, right? We are doing some pilots with the leading OEMs on electric trucks. We have done an MOU for 500 electric trucks with a leading OEM in India, where we are going to have electric mobility as a service directly from OEM. So it's
Actually, that puts you in a really good position, because the relay system that you've developed with drivers could also be used so that the truck itself could go into charging, and the trailer could be attached to a new truck for the next leg of the way.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that you keep the trailers moving, even though you have longer time to charge the trucks themselves.
I know, absolutely. I think a lot of ideas are coming our way, and a lot of entrepreneurs are reaching out to us to use our pit stops as also charging stations on the highways, where not just charging happens live, but people are coming at all sorts of ideas like, battery changeover. There's an experiment going on in one city in India where the buses, have this kind of five very fully robotized battery changeover process at one of the at few changeover stations for buses, right? The same process can be deployed at our relay stations for battery swapping, and right. So I have no doubt, that
there's kind of two schools of thought. One is fast charging, sometimes through inductive means from
of course,
a system that's in the ground, and the other is changing the battery. Each one has its pluses and minuses. It'll be interesting to see which one is the way that moves forward.
Yeah, but if you ask me, I think India is more betting right now on swapping. But my personal, by the end of the decade, we will have so much renewable energy. We'll not need actually storage a lot more, and we would be able to work with fast charging and so on and so forth, right? So we'll see how things evolve.
So I kind of got to ask this question. What do you worry about? What are the kind of things about the future that look like they might be problems?
So, every season brings a new set of worries for an entrepreneur, to be honest, right? Last 1 or 2 years have been about how do we get our pandemic and how do we get the utilizations back and how we ensure the safety of people is not compromised. How, it was a very tough time last 1.5 years. And even right now, my worry is, would we have wave 3 or not? Are people fully vaccinated? Are we safe? I think that's a big one. As we come out of it, I think the other element is it's incredibly hard right now to find good engineers in India. You'd be surprised, we're solving a truck driver shortage problem, and now we have an engineer shortage problem in the country, right? Despite the largest pool of engineers and schools in the country, it's crazy time in India right now in the tech ecosystem, right? Again, we'll have to devise some innovative ways to find the talent or get the talent to work, with companies. And culture, Richard, is always top of my mind.
Yeah.
How do we had to take a few hits. So we had a great run first 4 years. Last 2-3 years were challenging. We are coming out of all of this very nicely. We are feeling very optimistic and bullish about the next 5 years, right? So, went through a valley. We are again going to climb a peak. And when we do that, Richard, I want to make sure that we stick to our cultural ethos strongly and don't lose sight of our vision and the cultural ethos. I think if that's sorted, everything else will be sorted, because there'll be problems and there'll be worries and there'll be, things. I think so.
That really goes back to my first question. And that, more than anything else I've heard today, really just absolutely blows me away. I am very impressed with how you have created this human-centric use of technology. And this has been a great presentation. I want to thank you so much for your talk today. What we'll do is we'll stop the recording in just a minute, and then we'll finish up with a little bit of free open conversation for anyone who would like to stay. Deepak, I want to thank you so much for a great presentation. Rivigo is a great story. It has a great future. Really glad you could spend some time with us and tell about it today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. And thank you, everyone, for hearing the story and having me here. It's been a pleasure to talk through this.
Great.